The Senator from Bristol Norfolk, Mr. Feeney.
Thank you, Madam President, and through you to the members of this body. I want to, first of all, just start off again by thanking the gentleman from Westport, the Chair of Ways and Means, for his consistent support of libraries across our Commonwealth. Him and I have had the occasion to be together in our own region, meeting with library directors, and we've had some great conversations about the importance of libraries, as well as the Senate President, who I know has been a consistent supporter for many, many years in public service for our public libraries across the Commonwealth. I also do want to mention the gentleman who spoke about an hour ago. I would say at this point, the gentleman from Ludlow, who was able to articulate a lot better than I could the need for us to be able to fund fully our public libraries here in Massachusetts. Madam President, I rise today in support of this amendment, local amendment number 624, in support of expanding municipal aid to local libraries across the Commonwealth. This amendment increases the line item, which provides state aid to libraries to $20 million, a significant investment by the Massachusetts Senate for a very important reason. It goes without saying, Madam President, through you to the members, that our local libraries are at the core of each community and the districts that we all represent. We heard the gentleman from Ludlow speaking earlier about the unique fabric of our communities being held together many times by our local libraries. And I always like to use the analogy, you know, we talk a lot in this chamber and in the things that we do in our municipalities about the backbone of our communities, the backbone of the Commonwealth, making sure that the infrastructure is set. But when I think about libraries, I think about not just the backbone of our communities, but really the oxygen that our communities need to thrive and survive. From hosting recreational and culturally relevant events for all to enjoy, to supporting the scholarly and lifelong learning needs of Massachusetts residents, libraries serve a critical and unparalleled service that brings people of all ages, of all generations together in community. As a legislature, it is incumbent upon us to ensure that our libraries have the resources that they need to continue providing these critical services that at times, many times, we've seen, especially recently, municipal budgets just can't stretch far enough to allow. We've been hearing, all of us, from library directors across certainly my district and across many of your districts around the Commonwealth, that more funding is needed to cover the services that our communities have rightfully come to depend on. Expanding funding up front to our local libraries means providing them with the flexibility that they need, that's contained in this line item, to plan out costs for materials, projects, and programming, rather than waiting on funding to trickle down through municipalities that many times just never arrives. Due to tight budgets and competing priorities for local projects, libraries often fall back in the long list of priorities that our local cities and towns are already struggling to get through the backlog on themselves. This means that libraries are often waiting years and several budget cycles to cover basic costs and needed projects, such as accessibility upgrades, that without additional state funding would continue to get pushed aside, and often do in many of our municipalities, especially our smaller communities. Additional state funding would give libraries the resources to, and this is just one example, build a handicap accessible entrance in just a few months using unrestricted state funding in this line item that would otherwise have taken several years to complete through the municipal funding process. Think of all the community members that library would be turning down if making the entrance accessible would have taken years rather than months to complete. And that's just the structural need, capital need of some libraries to get community members just through the front doors. For some communities, municipal budgets can't even cover costs associated with keeping materials and books on the shelves. We've been hearing from our local libraries that the cost of e-books have been a major strain, whereas libraries are often buying books from vendors at a discounted price compared to what we would all purchase if we went into one of the bigger bookstores. That same e-book Massachusetts residents buy on the market can cost libraries well over $100 for a single e-book that may expire just a couple years after the date of purchase. This puts libraries in an impossible position where they are forced to pay an arm and a leg just to maintain the kinds of learning materials that our communities are looking for. Between paying for e-books, purchasing technology upgrades such as laptops and computers, installing Wi-Fi routers, which we've seen expand throughout the pandemic, and hotspots to provide critical internet access, especially in low-income communities for a population that desperately needs access to broadband, hiring performers for cultural enrichment, non-resident circulation reimbursement, and so much more. Libraries deserve more love from the state, and I believe that all of us in the Senate agree that that is for good reason. I want us all to think back to the day we got our first library card. The feeling you got holding that piece of shiny plastic, knowing that with the swipe of that card, you had a world of knowledge at your disposal and at your fingertips. For some that need to escape, they find that in our local libraries. For some that need a sense of belonging, they find that at our local libraries. For seniors that feel that they need companionship, they find that at our local libraries. For senators that want to meet with constituents, we find that at our local libraries. For communities to come together in meeting and enjoying each other's company, we find that at our local libraries. It is our job to ensure that these local gems can continue to hold magic for current and future generations through all stages of life. From books on first steps to field guides on bird watching, whether your library is in Boston's North End, the Berkshire Atheneum out in Pittsfield, the Provincetown Library, the Boston Public Library System, or even the Richards Memorial Library in North Attleboro. It's what the residents of Massachusetts want, it's what our local libraries deserve, and what our municipalities need to relieve some of their funding constraints and allow libraries to receive the funding needed to serve our constituents, young and old and everyone in between, not only now but for generations to come. The Senate has led on this. The Chair Ways and Means has led on this. Our Senate President has led on this. And once more, we can invest significant resources into libraries for the reasons that I just articulated, Madam President. I hope this amendment is adopted, and I ask that when a vote is taken, it be done by a call of the yeas and nays.